Devastating moment. When I switched glasses, the shocking truth about my daughter-in-law revealed. The sun had barely begun to set, casting an eerie glow over the living room as James situated himself on the worn-out couch. He reached for his glasses, tugging the frames off the coffee table with an urgency that hinted at a bubbling tension inside him. Today was the day he'd finally confront the mystery that had been gnawing at him like a hungry wolf. For weeks, every time he looked at Mia, his daughter-in-law, he sensed something off in the way she carried herself, how her laughter felt rehearsed, like she was hiding some dark secret. He slid his new prescription glasses onto his face, and the world sharpened into focus. Suddenly, the shadows in the corners of the room flickered and danced, and she stood there, frozen, her smile turning into a grimace. James blinked hard, trying to shake off the looming dread. Mia's demeanor had always been radiant, she swooped in like a gust of fresh air, but now something was different. Her dark hair glinted in the fading light, each strand alive with secrets. She was holding something, a photo turned just enough that he couldn't see. His heart raced as the urgency mounted. Why wouldn't she just show him? A lump formed in his throat. It wasn't like her to be anything but open, but tonight, he could feel a thick silence enveloping the room, and it scared him more than he thought it would. The shadows grew longer, stretching and twisting like fingers around them. "What is it, Mia?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, fear creeping in. She hesitated, eyes darting to the ground as it seemed every second stretched into eternity. Then, without warning, a flash of panic crossed her face. I can't." The words tumbled from her mouth, breaking the silence that felt almost tangible between them. James felt a tightening in his chest. He had to know. This wasn't just about a silly misunderstanding anymore, it was about something deeper, something unsettling. "Mia, please, I'm your family. You can trust me." But inside, dread gnawed at him. What was she hiding? Just then, the phone buzzed loudly, a jarring intrusion. The moment shattered, and she flinched, as if expecting an unseen threat. The air shifted, transforming tension into something almost palpable. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." As the buzzing faded, James' curiosity peaked again. She took a shaky breath, her fingers trembling around the photo. "It's not just about me, it's about your son." His blood ran cold at the mention of Jake. What could possibly be so dangerous, so shocking, that it involved his own son? The room felt constricting, the air thick with unspoken fears. He leaned forward, desperate for the truth, whatever it might be. "Mia, you have to tell me." But instead of words, her lips quivered, and she slowly turned the photo around. Just then, the door creaked open behind them, and James felt his heart stop. Could this wait any longer? What would he see? Would it be the shattering of trust or the horrifying reality of betrayal that awaited him? His world hung precariously, the truth just a heartbeat away, and as the door swung fully open, darkness crept closer, ready to swallow all hope whole. The door swung open with a slow creak, revealing the silhouette of Jake, his son, who stood there with an innocent smile. But that familiar grin felt like a mask over something deeper, something darker. James's heart raced, pounding in his chest as he felt the air in the room contort, thickening with anxiety. "Mia?" Jake called, his voice bright but edged with confusion. He was clearly unaware of the tension enveloping the space. "What is going on?" Mia's face flickered between relief and dread, torn between loyalty to her husband and the weight of the secret she carried. James felt a surge of protectiveness for Mia. He had to shield her from the volcanic eruption of emotion threatening to take over. "Jake," James interrupted, anxiety seeping into his tone. But the words caught in his throat, tangled with uncertainty. Could he lay bare the truth before Jake? Mia hurriedly shoved the photo behind her back. "Nothing, honey. We were just, talking." Her shaky smile felt brittle, like glass ready to shatter. Jake's eyes darted between his father and wife, suspicion brewing. "About what? You both look intense." James could feel Mia's fear clawing at him. "It's about," he started, but the weight of the moment caught him off guard. What if revealing everything would tear their family apart? In that instant, he realized he was trapped. Torn between the urge to protect Mia and the need to reveal the truth to his son. "Mia," Jake said, taking a step closer, genuine concern reflecting in his eyes. "Are you okay?" Mia hesitated, casting a quick glance at James, who could sense the urgency building. I just have something to explain." Her voice trembled as she took a deep breath, the wind seemingly knocked out of her. "It's about the photo." James drew in a sharp breath. What would she say? Would it be a revelation, or would it thrust them deeper into chaos? Without warning, she stepped back, eyes sprawling wide, as a sudden realization lit up her expression. "No. You can't see it." "What do you mean?" Jake demanded, his brows knitting together. Suddenly, the air crackled with tension. James could see the shadow of a secret stretching long before them. He needed answers. "Mia, please. You've got to tell him. We need to face this together." Her eyes darted back and forth like a frightened animal. "If I show you this, everything changes." "I can't." "Why not?" Jake interjected, panic seeping into his voice. Before Mia could respond, the phone buzzed again, louder this time, vibrating ominously on the table. Their eyes flicked to it, suspended in the raw fragility of the moment, the entity demanding their attention. James felt his insides twist like a pit of fear. What if this phone call was the key to understanding Mia's turmoil? He lunged for it, desperate to reclaim control, but Mia's voice sliced through the air like a knife. "Don't. Please." But it was too late. James grabbed the phone, eyes locked on Mia's, searching for answers in desperation. "Who is it, Mia? Who's calling you?" Her expression was a tempest, guilt, horror, and something else, something that screamed the truth was even worse than he could imagine. As he answered, the voice on the other line chilled him to the bone. "James, we need to talk. It's about Mia." With each word, the floor beneath him felt like quicksand, pulling him into an abyss of uncertainty and dread. What truth would unfold next? What darkness lay in wait? And just as those questions hung in the air, a crashing sound emanated from the back of the house, shattering the silence and sending all of their hearts racing. What had just come loose from the shadows? James's heart thundered, displacing the previous chill that coiled in his chest. The crashing sound splintered the tense silence, echoing like a dark omen throughout the house. Mia's face paled, her breath hitching as she whirled toward the back of the house, eyes wide with sheer terror. "Jake, go see what that was," James ordered, his voice trembling with a frantic urgency. He regretted the sharpness, but adrenaline surged through him, pushing him into a protective mode he never knew he had. "No. Don't!" Mia exclaimed, her fragile composure cracking. "Please, just stay here." But Jake was already on the move, curiosity driving him forward. "Dad, what's happening?" "Mom, are you scared of something?" "Jake, wait." James lunged after his son, gripping his shoulder, trying to crush the panic crawling up his spine. "Just, stay with us." Jake shook off his father's hand, confusion swirling in his youthful eyes. "If something is wrong, I have to know." And before James could reply, Jake dashed toward the back, vanishing down the darkened hallway. Mia stood frozen, the broken pieces of their lives flickering in her gaze. This isn't how it was supposed to go, James, she whispered, her voice cracking. I should have never gotten involved in this. James felt a lurch in his gut. Involved in what? Mia. What is going on? He glanced at the phone still clutched in his hand, a lifeline that felt more like a loaded gun aimed at them. Just, don't let him see that photo. She begged, her voice barely above a whisper, cracking with urgency. It was as if a thick fog had settled between them, suffocating the truth. Why? What's on that photo? His voice escalated as fear ripped through him. The anticipation of the crashing sound lingered like a dark shadow, waiting to consume them all. I can't explain right now, she said, tears welling in her eyes. You wouldn't understand. A deafening bang erupted from the back, almost drowning out the panic in Mia's trembling voice. James turned, his heart racing, praying that it was just a branch falling or something equally mundane. But then he heard it again, a deeper thud, followed by the scuffle of footsteps. Jake! James shouted. Stay here. Mia screamed, darting toward the noise. Are you crazy? He felt himself losing control, as if the very walls of his home had become a prison of secrets threatening to collapse around them. You can't go back there. We don't know what or who that is. But she was already moving, fear etched on her face that mirrored his own but with a determination that bordered on reckless. Why are you so afraid of the truth? James called after her, desperation lacing his words. Because the truth can destroy everything. She yelled back, her voice choked with emotion that he hesitated at the threshold, torn between her plea and his instinct to protect their family. Every second stretched like an eternity, a chasm of doubt filled with unspoken words. Then abruptly, Jake's voice pierced the air again, a mix of confusion and fear. Mom. Dad. You guys need to see this. With dread pooling in his stomach, James moved toward the sound, Mia right beside him. The darkness ahead twisted ominously. What had Jake stumbled upon? A fragment of a past he'd rather forget? Or something far more sinister? As they stepped into the room, the future hanging in the balance, a sickening realization gripped James. What they were about to uncover could shatter everything they held dear, and just beyond the doorway, a startling sight awaited, waiting to drag them into the depths of a truth long buried. What had Jake discovered that would change them forever? Stepping into the dimly lit room, James's breath caught in his throat. Shadows danced, flickering on the walls like specters summoned from another world. And then he saw it, Jake's small body hunched over a wooden box that had toppled beside the dust-covered shelves. The whiff of stale air mixed with something more pungent, the remnants of secrets lying dormant for too long. Jake! James rushed forward, panic clawing at his insides. Get away from there. But the boy was oblivious, his hands fumbling with the aged wood, curiosity etched on his youthful face. Look, Dad. It's a treasure chest. Jake exclaimed, almost gleefully, as if he'd just uncovered buried pirate gold. It's not a treasure, Jake. Mia's voice cracked as she joined them, the urgency in her tone sending chills down James's spine. Close it. We shouldn't. Why not? Jake questioned, blue eyes wide with excitement. Tension hung thick in the air. What's inside? James's heart raced as he shot a glance at Mia. Her expression, a twisted blend of fear and resignation, choked him. What lay hidden was not just a box of forgotten trinkets. It was something monumental, possibly dangerous. With reluctant hands, James knelt next to his son, the box's rusty latch calling to him like a siren song. He swallowed hard, fighting against an electric pulse of dread. Whatever was buried inside that box could change everything. Let's just see what it is, James said slowly, but the doubt in his voice betrayed him. He felt as if he were stepping closer to the edge of a cliff, peering down at the unknown depths below. Jake tugged at the lid, the wooden creak breaking the silence like a gunshot. Inside were photographs, their corners yellowed with age, and some folded letters, fragile like the memories they contained. A part of him wanted to scream for Jake to back away, but curiosity lured him in. What the Mia began, but her words faded when she too caught sight of the photos. James picked one up, his breathing halting. There she was, a younger Mia, her smile radiant and carefree, cradling a baby in her arms, the boy looking alarmingly like their current son. But as he flipped the photo, a shiver ran through him. Another face glared back at him from the edges of the image. A man, his eyes dark and predatory, his expression etched in malice. "Who is he?" Jake asked, his voice small, eyes darting from the photo to his parents. Mia's breath hitched as she clasped her hands over her mouth, a spark of panic igniting anew. "James, that's..." "No," James interrupted, fear threatening to choke him. "What does he have to do with us?" "We never talked about him," Jake. Mia's voice shook. "He's part of a past that should have stayed buried." "What do you mean?" "Mom, please." Jake insisted, caught in a swirl of confusion and fear. The letters seemed to whisper sinister secrets as James carefully unfolded one. The ink faded but the message sharp. "You think he won't find you? He's been watching." James recoiled as if burned. The weight of the hidden truth crushed down on him. The implications gravitated like a black hole, threatening to pull them all into an abyss marked by fear and regret. Mia looked at him, panic flashing in her eyes. "We have to put it back. You have to trust me, James." But it was too late. The truth had bubbled to the surface like a noxious gas, choking their lives in its wake. As dread pooled in the pit of his stomach, a voice outside echoed through the darkness. "Hey! Anyone home?" The sound sliced through the air, sending a tremor of terror through them. Who was it, and were they connected to the horrors that awaited them in the box? Just then, Jake's voice stirred in horror. "Mom, what if he's back?" And at that moment, the house felt suddenly smaller, the walls squeezing in as danger loomed ever closer. What had they just unleashed, and who was that voice calling from outside? James's heart pounded in his chest, a relentless drumbeat of panic. The voice outside gripped him by the throat, squeezing tight. Whoever it was could be connected to the man in the photos, the man who had cast his shadow over their lives, a shadow that now loomed larger with every moment. "Jake, listen to me," he said urgently, shaking the boy's shoulders lightly. "You need to get out of here. Right now." With wide eyes, Jake hesitated, his adventurous spirit crushed under the weight of his father's fear. "Come on," Mia added, glancing nervously toward the door. "We need to hide." The photographs slipped from James's fingers, scattering across the dusty floor. He was torn between his children's safety and the chilling curiosity that pulled him back toward the box. As each photo fluttered to rest, the faces stared back at him, accusing, whispering. Mia was already moving. "The closet!" she cried, darting toward the far wall. Jake followed. James's feet felt like lead as dread mingled with the instinct to protect, the clamor outside growing louder, more insistent. "Hey! If you're in there, I know you can hear me." The voice had shifted, now tinged with impatience and a sinister edge that sent shivers through James's spine. "Now!" Mia hissed as she yanked the closet door open, wide enough for the two of them to squeeze inside. James shot a glance back at the box. His hand twitched toward it, the call of his curiosity strong, but the weight of responsibility for his family pulled him in the opposite direction. The door creaked ominously as he closed it behind him. "Shoo!" Mia pressed a finger to her lips, glancing through the narrow slats of the closet. Jake's breath came fast and shallow, his small body vibrating with fear. "Dad, what's happening?" he whispered, trying to keep his voice low. "I don't know, buddy," James replied, his heart hammering against his ribs. "But I promise we will get through this." The voice from outside raised its volume, resolve hardening. "Last chance. I'm coming in." The wooden door rattled beneath the weight of the moment, echoing through the cramped space. James's pulse quickened. He couldn't let this intruder find them. What if it was him? The man from the photos. What was he capable of? But then came a soft thud, more noise from the other side of the house. And then a voice, familiar yet foreign, one that James hadn't heard in years, a voice that faced him like an old ghost. "You're making this difficult, James. I really didn't want to crash your little reunion, but here we are." He squinted through the crack of the closet, fighting the urge to lean out. Heart pounding, he thought, how does he know my name? Who is this? The very air felt charged as if someone had ignited an unspoken terror. "I know you think you've hidden your little secrets well, but every secret has a way of clawing its way back." The voice dripped with mockery. James glanced at Mia, their eyes locking in shared fear. "We can't stay here," she mouthed, panic rising. They had to escape, somehow, but the door creaked open. What awaited them? Was the past finally coming to collect its debts? With a sudden burst of determination, James pressed his back against the closet wall. "Get ready," he mouthed to Mia and Jake, his heart racing even faster. What were they facing? And would uncovering the truth save them or only lead them deeper into the darkness? Just then, a shadow crossed the threshold of the doorway, and James felt the world shift beneath him. The moment had come. James's breath caught, swirling through the silence like a leaf caught in a storm. The shadow loomed larger, and an unsettling chill filled the air. Each heartbeat thundered in his ears as he felt the weight of what lay beyond that door. "Who are you?" The intruder called out, his voice slicing through the stillness like a knife. "I know you're in there, James. It's only a matter of time." James couldn't process the words. Who was this man? What secrets had he unearthed? Panic gripped him as terror wrapped its icy fingers around his throat. He could feel Jake and Mia pressed against him, each tiny gasp of breath sharp with fear. "Focus on my voice, okay?" James whispered, forcing himself to sound stronger than he felt. "We'll find a way out of this. Together." Mia bit her lip, eyes wide with dread, while Jake's hands clutched his father's shirt. James felt the warmth of their fear and registered their trembling bodies pressed against him. This was a battle against the unknown, and he was determined to protect them. Suddenly, the intruder was inches away, now silhouetted in the dim light of the hallway. "Going to play the silent game?" he taunted. "That's fine. I enjoy a little challenge." James's heart raced as cold sweat dripped down his back. They were trapped in this cramped listing closet, hearts pounding in sync with the menace outside. The intruder's voice held the power to undo the very fabric of their lives, and he felt the oppressive weight of his choices pressing down. "Time's up," he bellowed, throwing the door wide open and stepping inside the room. James fought the instinct to scream, his instinct screaming for action. The intruder's figure was twisted by the shadows. A jolt of recognition shot through James as he caught a glimpse of the man's face. He had seen him before, his memory echoing the images from those cursed photographs. The man who had haunted his every movement, now standing in the flesh, embodying the horror of his past. "Do you remember me?" The man grinned, displaying predatory confidence. "I've been waiting a long time for this, James." Driven by fear, James felt a surge of adrenaline. He knew they couldn't let this man control them. "Get ready," he breathed, his voice barely audible. "We need to push past him." But there was nowhere to push. The room felt claustrophobic, the walls tightening like a vice. James searched for a solution, and that's when he noticed an unopened window, just to one side, the only possible escape route. "Follow me," he whispered urgently, heart pounding with urgency. "Where?" Mia gasped, panic splattered across her face. "Just follow." James turned to the window, adrenaline surging through him, as he faced the intruder. An unsettling calm washed over him. "I want to let you take my family," he declared, feeling the pulse of protection burst forth. In that moment, the man's smile faltered. "You really think you can escape your past?" There was a pause, a moment lost in time. Everything slowed down. James seized it. He rushed at the window, muscles coiling, ready to break the barrier. But then, a loud noise erupted. The point of no return was upon them with ferocity, ripping through the air as the room quaked. Now! He shouted, launching toward the window, desperately wanting to end this nightmare, but would it be enough? Glass shattered, falling like rain. Everything he had ever feared collapsed into this one agonizing moment. Outside lay uncertainty and danger, but would freedom wait for them, or was it merely another trap? And through the whirlwind of noise, the voice echoed back. These walls will never let you escape. His heart raced as he and his children leapt into the unknown. What awaited them outside? The darkness loomed large, and the chase had only just begun. The cold air hit James like a slap, sharp and biting as they tumbled through the broken window. Mia shrieked, the sound melding with the crunch of glass beneath their feet. They were in a narrow alley, surrounded by shadowy outlines of buildings that loomed like giants watching them, a raw, desperate sense of freedom mingling with the chilling fear of what might still be lurking behind them. Run! James barked, urgency bursting from his lungs. He grabbed Mia's hand with one of his and Jake's wrist with the other. With his heart pounding, he forced his legs to move, propelling them deeper into the night. They sprinted down the alley, the damp ground slick beneath their shoes. James felt the adrenaline fuel his desperation, but with every step, the presence of their pursuer loomed. "Dad, stop!" Jake cried, his breath hitching. "What if he finds us?" James slowed. "We need a plan, buddy," he murmured, scanning the area. Their escape was wide open, but danger was tangible, buzzing in the air like a swarm of angry hornets. Over there, Mia pointed at a shadowy doorway slightly ajar. It was a dimly lit shop, the sign barely visible but hopeful, a safe haven against the swirling chaos. James hesitated for a fraction of a second but knew they had no choice. In. Quickly. They slipped through the doorway just as the sound of footsteps echoed behind them, heavy with intent. Inside, the musty scent slammed James with a wave of nostalgia. He recognized this place, an old antique store that had fallen victim to the slow decay of time. Dust motes danced in a thin stream of moonlight sneaking through the cracked windows. His fingers brushed against a nearby vase as they entered. It had been a part of his childhood. Memories flooded back with an agonizing twist of longing layered with fear. "Shouldn't we keep moving?" Jake asked, his voice quaking. "Yes, but let us breathe for a moment." As they crouched behind a tall stack of boxes, James' chest tightened. He could see the silhouette of the intruder passing by outside, scanning the ground like a predator searching for prey. Each breath felt heavy as they watched him move, the tension electric. The intruder's figure twisted in shadows, a nightmarish echo of the past that James had hoped to forget. He felt the familiar churn of regret and anger simmer inside him. "Who is he?" Mia whispered, her eyes wide, glistening with unshed tears. James swallowed hard. "The past, someone I thought I had left behind. We have to be careful. He knows things. Things about us." Mia's grip tightened around his sleeve. "We can't let him take us. I'm not ready to go back there." "I won't let that happen," James promised, raw determination filling his voice. "We'll get through this. I swear." The intruder lingered outside for what felt like eternity. James glanced around, searching for anything to use, a way to arm himself against the truth he'd buried so deep. But fear clouded his mind. Then it came to him like a bolt of lightning. If he could confront the man outside, perhaps he could unravel the knot of fear that had now held them captive. The very thought ignited something inside him, a flicker of bravery buried beneath layers of dread. Suddenly, the intruder stepped closer, his shadow cutting through the faint light spilling into the store. "I know you're in there, James. You can't hide forever." James held his breath, heart racing. "Enough games," he shouted, surprising even himself. The doorway felt like a threshold to a battlefield, the stakes freshly raised above his protectiveness for Mia and Jake. "Let us settle this now," he declared, instincts sharpening into focus. "You want me? Come and get me." And with that, he pushed the door open wide, stepping out into the moonlit chaos with Jake and Mia right behind him. The truth, the intruder, and his shadowy past awaited, standing in stark contrast to the freedom they desperately sought, but unseen forces were still hard at work in the background, and James suddenly realized freedom wasn't as simple as stepping into the light. "James, wait." Mia's voice rang out, filled with urgency as the darkness flickered with movement. But his resolve was unyielding. Would he show his children that courage meant facing their fears, or would the shadows swallow them whole? The answer lurked just out of reach, waiting in the night with a sinister smile. Before he could react, a sudden sound shattered the air, something far worse than silence. What new horror awaited them as the hunt took an even darker turn? James stepped into the moonlight, a tidal wave of uncertainty crashing over him. The air felt thick, as if the night itself was wrapping around them, twisting and coiling like a serpent prepared to strike. "Look out!" Jake shouted, yanking on James' sleeve just as the intruder lunged from the shadows. His face was a grim mask of fury, eyes blazing with a chilling intensity. James barely had time to react before the man was on him, hands grasping at his collar, pulling him forward with strength that sent a jolt of fear coursing through his veins. "Thought you could hide, huh?" The intruder's voice dripped with venom, words spat out with a mixture of rage and something darker and unsettling hunger. "Let go of him!" Mia screamed, her small body shoving against the intruder's back with a force that seemed impossible for her size. "Stay back!" James growled, shaking off the man's grip, adrenaline igniting his senses. He could feel Mia and Jake behind him, their breaths rapid, each gasp a whisper of dread echoing in his ears. In that moment, everything snapped into focus, the flickering shadows, the dusty antique surrounding them, and the looming figure before him. This wasn't just a confrontation. It was an unwinding nightmare wrapped in unresolved pain and anger. James clenched his fists, channeling his fear into something fierce. "You think you can just walk back into our lives? You're nothing to us." The intruder laughed, a twisted sound that sent chills down James' spine. "I'm everything to you. You've run from your past, but it's right here. This is just the beginning." Something about those words sent a frigid spike of dread through James. What did the man know about him? About his family? The intruder shifted, eyeing Jake and Mia with a predatory gleam. "You think you can protect them? They deserve to know the truth. You can't keep hiding behind your lies." "Shut up!" Mia cried, stepping closer to James, her body taut with fury. "Don't speak to them," James warned, stepping in front of his children. "Whatever you think you know, it's not true." With a sudden movement, the man lunged again. This time James was ready. He sidestepped quickly, adrenaline pumping through him, and felt a spark of hope ignite the thrill of outsmarting his foe. "Get back!" he shouted to Jake and Mia, determination flooding his voice. He clenched his fists, ready to fight, ready to defend the one thing he would never lose, his family. But before he could react, the sound of heavy footsteps thundered down the alley behind them, another figure bursting into the moonlit chaos. "Stop! Police!" a voice shouted, breaking through the tension. Both James and the intruder froze, confusion flooding the air. The newcomer wore a uniform, badge glinting under the pale light, and instantly, James felt relief spill through him before panic took its place. What if this officer couldn't protect them? What if this was part of their relentless nightmare? "Everyone, drop it!" the officer commanded, aiming his flashlight back and forth between James and the intruder. Tension flickered like a light bulb on the verge of blowing. "Wait," James said, his voice trembling slightly. "He's dangerous." But the intruder, now cornered, smirked with a twisted satisfaction. "You think this is over? You're far from done, James. The truth is coming for you." And just like that, he slipped backward into the darkness, vanishing like smoke. James felt his heart plummet, dread settling in the pit of his stomach. "Are you all right?" The officer turned to them, expressions shifting from bewilderment to concern. Mia held on to James' sleeve, her fingers trembling. He knows stuff. About us. About Dad's past." James swallowed hard, the raw fear in his children's eyes locking away his own fears, pushing him into action. He needed to shield them from this. But what if they were already involved, tethered to a past that was refusing to stay buried? "Not now," he whispered, as he backed up cautiously, scanning the dark corners where the man had disappeared. The danger might not be over. Shadows lingered, ready to creep back in. The start of something deeper lurked just beyond the veil of night. Was this merely the beginning, or had they just stepped into something darker than he could ever fathom? "Hold on tight, kids," he said, determined to fight back, uncertain of what faced them next. The truth was coming for them, and they were standing right in its path. What awaited them around the next corner? James could feel the pulse of fear thrumming through him, loud and urgent. The air was charged, crackling with tension. The officer's flashlight bounced erratically, illuminating patches of the alley, throwing shadows that danced with the potential for danger. "Stay close, Mia, Jake," he whispered, his voice low but firm. The darkness seemed to swallow the officer's reassuring presence, and he felt the weight of responsibility settle heavier on his shoulders. What did he mean? Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper, laced with confusion and fear. "I don't know," James replied, his voice gravelly. "But we need to figure out what's going on." The officer took a step closer, trying to assess the scene, but James could see his uncertainty. "I need you all to remain calm. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" James swallowed, torn between the need to protect his kids and the urgency of the situation. "We were just walking, and then he attacked. He said he knows things. About me. About us." The officer nodded, but James could see that he didn't fully grasp the gravity of the threat. It felt bigger than the three of them, like a web that tangled deeper and deeper around their lives. A faint rustling echoed from the shadows where the intruder had slipped away, and James tensed. It was as if the darkness itself had come alive, breathing and pulsating with menace. Mia squeezed his sleeve tighter. He could feel her pulse racing through her small hand. "Maybe he's gone," the officer suggested, though doubt clung to the edges of his words. "No," James said sharply, scanning the alley. The night was too quiet, the uncertainty mounting like storm clouds overhead. "He'll be back and he won't stop until he gets what he wants." "Sir, we need to get you and your kids to safety," the officer replied, his badge gleaming. "You can't stay here. Let us go back to my vehicle." As they stepped cautiously through the alley, something within James urged him to glance back one last time, searching the darkness as if it were a living entity. The weight of his past felt like chains around his feet, pulling him away from the light. "Dad?" Jake's voice trembled. "Is he gonna hurt us?" "No. No, he won't," James said, though the unease in his own heart betrayed him. "I won't let him." They reached the police vehicle and the officer ushered them inside, turning on the interior lights, offering a brief reprieve from the suffocating darkness. James could see the worry etched on their faces, mirrored in the officer's expression. "Now listen," the officer said, his voice firm but gentle, "I need you to tell me everything you know about the man who attacked you." "I don't know anything," James exclaimed, frustration bubbling up like lava. He's part of my past. Someone I thought was gone for good." "What's his name?" The officer pressed, but the name was stuck in James's throat, a bitter taste. "His name is Martin," James finally managed, the name cutting through the air like a jagged blade. He's dangerous." As soon as the name passed his lips, a surge of recognition washed over Mia, confusion knitting her brow. "Dad? Did he hurt you before?" The question hung in the air, a heavy anchor in their already tumultuous world. The truth stung, leaving a bitter residue. James turned to his kids, the weight of the moment bowing his shoulders. It doesn't matter now. What matters is us getting away from him. I promise to protect you. But the old demons whispered in his ear, begging for recognition. They wanted to unearth secrets that he prayed would stay buried. The cruiser's radio crackled to life, and the officer turned back, eyes narrowing at whatever was being relayed. Hold on, he said abruptly. We need to. There's been a report of a disturbance nearby. Just then, a hard thump echoed against the side of the vehicle, and James felt his breath hitch. He turned to the window, dread knotted in his stomach. A shadow loomed, tall and dark, casting an ominous outline. The breeze stirred, and he could sense the weight of that presence creeping back into their lives. Stay down. The officer shouted, raising his hand as another thump resounded, a chilling reminder that the nightmare was far from over. As the door swung open, silhouetted against the moonlight, Robert stepped forward, uncertainty clear in his stance. You can't run from this, James. The truth needs to come out. A shockwave of realization swept over James. It wasn't just the intruder that haunted them. There were layers yet to uncover, and each new twist threatened to unravel everything he'd fought to protect. Kids, we need to move. James shouted, the cold grip of fear clutching at his heart. What else lay hidden in the shadows, waiting to be revealed? The air was thick with tension as James looked at Mia and Jake, their faces pale, eyes wide with fear. There was no turning back now. The truth had clawed its way out, and it wouldn't be put back in the box. They were trapped in a nightmare, the darkness creeping in with every heartbeat. Everyone needs to be calm, the officer urged, trying to project authority while uncertainty cloaked his serious demeanor. We're going to get through this. But James felt conviction surge in him, boiling over with a fierce determination to protect his family. Listen. James declared, his voice steady despite the anxiety pulsing in his veins. That man Martin, he's not just a knock on the door. He's a shadow from a past I thought I left behind. He seeks out every secret, waiting to destroy everything that's good in our lives. At that moment, the reality hit harder than a punch. This wasn't just about confronting Martin. It was about facing the decisions in his past that led them to this very moment. The weight of those mistakes bore down on him, and the need to shield Jake and Mia from that pain tightened his chest. Just outside, a faint rustling echoed, snapping James back into the present like a rubber band pulled too tight. We need to get moving. He urged again, eyes darting toward the window where shadows flickered menacingly, but they had hesitated too long. James. Mia whimpered, her voice trembling like a feather caught in the wind. What do we do now? Follow my lead. He gripped their hands, offering a steadiness he didn't quite feel himself. They slid low in the seats of the cruiser, a makeshift fortress against the swirling chaos outside. But as the night stretched on, James realized this confrontation couldn't wait. With a sudden surge of raw determination, James swung open the door of the cruiser, pulling Mia and Jake with him into the unknown. Stay close. Each step felt heavy as they descended from the vehicle and plunged into the pool of shadows that enveloped them. Every instinct screamed danger, the air thick with tension. Without warning, the voice of Martin rang out, sharp and clear, slicing through the night. You thought running away would solve your problems, didn't you? The mockery laced through his words sent a tremor down James's spine. The grip on his family tightened. You don't know anything about us. We're not afraid. But uncertainty danced around them like thick fog, feeding off their fears. James led them deeper into the labyrinth of alleyways, trying to lull the innate instincts of panic rising. We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere we can talk. Then, everything froze. A figure moved through the night defined, sharp against the shadows. It was the officer, rushing toward them. Where do you think you're going? You can't just shut up. James blurted out, instinctively rising to defend his family. He's out there. This is bigger than you understand. We need to stick together. But before they could react, the darkness behind them crackled with movement. Suddenly, Jake cried out, "Dad!" as he stumbled, falling back. James turned, dread pooling in his stomach. He saw the glint of Martin's figure, advancing from the shadows, loom larger than life. "Give it up, James. The truth matters," Martin taunted, stepping forward, his gaze flaring with sinister satisfaction. "You can't escape what you've buried so deep. Stay behind me." James barked, pulling his family back behind him like wrapping them in a protective shield. With pumping adrenaline, James felt every ounce of strength rise within him. "This ends now," he shouted, channeling all his frustration and anger into a singular purpose. This was a confrontation that had been waiting to explode. He wouldn't let it take away his family. "Martin. You think you hold all the cards? You think you can intimidate us into submission?" The words echoed louder than the pounding of his heart, spiraling like fire caught alight. With purpose and rebellion fueling his heart, James advanced toward Martin, ready to challenge the darkness that had haunted him for too long. As he approached, he locked in on Martin's gaze. This wasn't just about family anymore, this was about facing the specter that had bound him in fear, shackled him to the past, and as the shadows of the alley swirled, a new energy surged. "Let us talk about the truth, then," James hissed, his heart thrumming with furious will. "Because I will not lose my family or my future to your twisted games." A deafening silence fell between them, a moment pregnant with tension. The world outside faded away, leaving only the pulse of fear and unwavering resolve lingering in the air, and, as if sensing the change, the night seemed to hold its breath. "Are you ready for what's to come?" Martin's voice, still taunting, echoed through the alley. "Yes," James answered with defiance, feeling the weight of silent promises wrapped around them. "We're ready." In that moment, standing with Mia and Jake, fear transformed into something powerful, an unyielding surge of love, courage, and the will to fight. They would confront the truth together, bringing light to the darkest secrets and emerging on the other side, forever changed but united in their strength. As the final shadows began to recede, James clutched his family tighter, willing the fear away. Together, they would face whatever came, a warrior shield surrounding a small but determined fellowship ready to face the unknown, and with that, James stepped forward, embracing the confrontation ahead, ready to reclaim their lives from the grasp of darkness. Now that their past was rising to claw its way into the light, what awaited them? You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for our journey. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about how it all ends. Join the conversation, and don't miss out on our next story.